Which begs the question, what are the four players that the Indiana Fever should core to make sure that no team can touch them heading into the expansion draft? Remember, you just lose these players straight up. You don't get anything back for the players. They're gone. We didn't get anything for Temi, did we? No, exactly.
The Indiana Fever have just released shocking news that has left fans reeling. 4 players are now gone, and the front office appears to be in a full-blown panic. The immediate concern isn't about who will depart next, but rather how quickly they can reconstruct the team to support Caitlin Clark before the situation worsens. Here's a question for you. Was this a brilliant move by the Fever or a massive blunder? Alright, let's dive right in, because Indiana has effectively turned its offseason into a dramatic spectacle. 4 essential players on the Fever's roster have become unrestricted free agents now that their contracts have officially run out. We're referring to Sydney Colson, Odyssey Sims, Brian Nay Turner, and Bry Hall. And before anyone attempts to downplay this as just business, no, this is a complete overhaul.
We'll be back in Las Vegas.
It feels great to be back, but I'm going to pivot to something else. Sally, is that cool?
Yes.
All right. On behalf of my teammates and every member of our union, I want to be clear. We remain committed to negotiating the next CBA with the league and the teams in good faith and privately. We know that our league is growing, and we believe that it's imperative that our CBA reflects the growth that we've experienced in the league, and that players should be seeing part of those earnings. And so I am excited to be back here, but unfortunately there are more pressing things going on with our league.
These are not just reserves. These are players who were instrumental in carrying the team through a difficult season filled with injuries, exhaustion, and turmoil. And now, their return is uncertain. Let's analyze this. The Fever mounted a significant run last season, even with Caitlin Clark sidelined near the end. They managed to battle their way to the WNBA semifinals, pushing the Las Vegas Aces to 5 games, which truly astonished many observers. They were not expected to be there. They were predicted to fall apart after Clark's injury, but they held strong. They persevered because players such as Sims and Turner rose to the occasion. Now those very same players could be gone. All 4, Coulson, Sims, Turner, and Hall, are moving to Athletes Unlimited Pro Basketball, a 5-on-5 league in Nashville that operates during the WNBA offseason. If you're unfamiliar, AU Pro Basketball is essentially a short tournament where players switch teams each week and accumulate points from their performance. It's highly competitive, enjoyable, and a solid way for athletes to earn extra income between seasons. But this is where it gets complicated. When players join other leagues, it isn't solely about the money. It's about seeking opportunities. It's about keeping all their options open. And here, all 4 are unrestricted free agents, allowing them to sign with any team once the WNBA's free agency period begins. That period starts in February, just as AU gets underway. So now, Fever supporters are wondering, did Indiana just let go of 4 of its most dependable veterans? Don't forget, this team is already dealing with chemistry problems and injury. They just barely kept it together last season after Clark was injured. Now they are losing experience, leadership, and depth, the 3 exact elements you need when building around a superstar. And yes, let's be direct about it. Caitlin Clark is that superstar. She represents the franchise, fills the arenas, and is the reason people are interested in Fever basketball once more. This is not merely about filling roster positions. It's about safeguarding your most precious asset, your generational. If Clark lacks a strong roster supporting her, things could deteriorate rapidly, and Indiana is aware of this. They have the funds with plenty of cap space available. However, money can't undo poor roster choices. To be fair, not every player's position is secure. Even Kelsey Mitchell, among the team's most reliable scorers, has been mentioned in trade speculations. Multiple teams, including the Dallas Wings, are said to be eyeing her.
Don't believe it'll happen. There is a possibility that Kelsey Mitchell may take her talents elsewhere, and we need to be fully prepped and ready to go to continue to build this roster out around Caitlin Clark.
Averaged 20.2 points per game last season, 3.2 assists for somebody who never passes the ball, from what I'm told. She averaged over 3 assists last year. She never passes the ball. You'd think she'd average 1.5, 1.2. 3.2 assists for Kelsey Money Mitch. and shot nearly 40% from three, 39% from the three-point line for Kelsey Mitchell last year. When her and Caitlin Clark are in the lineup together, lethal, deadly, the best backcourt in the league.
And if she departs, Indiana faces even bigger issues. It is well known that Clark and Aaliyah Boston are the cornerstones of the franchise, but basketball is not a solo sport like tennis. You can't succeed with only two players. That is what makes these departures so astounding. The Fever had finally achieved some stability last season amidst the chaos. They possessed depth, they had good chemistry, and for the first time in a long while, they appeared to be a credible playoff contender. Now it's back to the drawing board. You can almost sense the frustration from the fans who have waited years for this team to be relevant again. Even more perplexing, Coach Stephanie White's system has not definitively proven it can adapt to such changes. Her offense was effective enough to take them deep into the playoffs. Certainly, but it lacks the dynamism needed to win a title, and her history supports this. She failed to achieve it in Connecticut, and she failed to achieve it in Indiana. If the Fever intend to protect Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston for the future, they require more than a makeshift rotation. They require a clear vision. The Fever have stated their focus is on building with young talent. That adds promising in theory until you acknowledge that half of your young core is either hurt or not under contract. And now, as the Fever attempt to decide who to retain, other teams are observing quietly, prepared to sign away talent as soon as contracts are up. It's like watching someone leave their car unlocked with the engine running. What's more astonishing is that this is all happening during the most unpredictable offseason in WNBA history, because we must remember, the CBA negotiations are still in progress. Until a new agreement is reached, teams cannot formally proceed with free agency. So technically, no one can be signed, traded, or have their contract extended at this moment. This leaves the Fever completely stuck. They cannot re-sign anybody, and they are unable to plan their roster until this situation is resolved. This is the worst scenario for a young team striving to remain competitive. So let's review this nightmare. 4 players departed, free agency is stalled. A key scorer is potentially on the trade block, and a superstar is recovering while watching this all happen. This is hardly the championship atmosphere Indiana continues to promise, and the fans recognize it. Social media lit up as soon as the news broke. Some fans label it a rebuild, others call it self-destruction, and frankly, both could be accurate. Because when you let go of 4 rotation players before addressing your coaching or contract issues, it doesn't appear strategic, it appears desperate. The front office maintains they are confident in the team's direction, but fans have heard that line before the past decade. In fact, this is meant to be the Caitlin Clark era, a time for building stability, not tearing it down. But if Indiana fails to act quickly, they could squander another season of Clark's prime years with makeshift lineups and temporary solutions. And I'll state it plainly, this team must make protecting Caitlin Clark its absolute top offseason priority. Not media appearances, not marketing slogans, not merchandise sales, real on-the-court protection. Because last season's injuries were severe, and she endured a physical toll every game before her injury. If they fail to assemble a better supporting cast next year, could be even more difficult. Let's be honest, this whole situation feels familiar to Fever fans. Every time they appear to make progress, something occurs to disrupt everything. And this time, it isn't simply bad fortune, it's poor management. Because regardless of how you frame it, allowing 4 players to leave when your roster is already thin is nonsensical, especially when one of them, Odyssey Sims, was one of the few vocal leaders remaining in the locker room. The Fever finally had a functional mix. Veterans with strong personalities and young stars with dynamism. Now they have a leadership void, of course. Caitlin Clark is the face of the team, but she isn't the general manager. It isn't her responsibility to resolve chemistry problems. It's the front office's duty to provide her with a team worth leading. And the irony is, the Fever possess the money, but they continue to operate like they're broke. They have salary cap room, sponsorships, and the highest ticket demand in the league. Yet they're making choices like a small market team pinching pennies. If you plan to build around Clark and Boston, you must fully commit to it, not hunt for deals in February. Now fans are already speculating on the Fever's future direction. Some think this is just a short-term shuffle, a method to create room for better free agents, or perhaps even a major trade. Others see it as the beginning of another prolonged rebuild that will squander Clark's formative years. And this is the part that truly stings. Both perspectives might be correct because Indiana seems uncertain of its own strategy. Are they aiming to build a contender immediately, or are they playing for time and eyeing the next draft class? If it's the former, they're regressing. If it's the latter, they are squandering the greatest marketing opportunity the league has seen in a decade. Let's be direct. Caitlin Clark's arrival alone altered the WNBA's financial landscape. Her jersey sales shattered records. Her game's elevated rating. She single-handedly restored the Fever's relevance. So when a player of her caliber is injured, the very last thing you should do is break apart the team around her. But that's where we are. Even rival teams are observing this and wondering, what exactly is Indiana doing? You have Lexi Hull and Sophie Cunningham, both crowd favorites and defensive stalwarts, being treated as afterthoughts. You have veterans joining off-season leagues, unsure if they'll even have a job in May. And the front office, utterly quiet, silent, not one statement to reassure fans or clarify their strategy. Meanwhile, Coach Stephanie White must try to assemble a team from a roster that could be completely transformed by training camp. Let's discuss her briefly. White's system is adequate on paper, but it has its weaknesses. She can't implement a fast-paced style when half her players are gone and the others are recovering from injuries. If the Fever don't support her by adding depth and shooters, it won't matter how talented Clark and Boston are. They'll be outmatched by teams with superior rotations. Yet again, the Aces, Liberty and Wings are not idle. They are strengthening their rosters, securing talent and fostering chemistry. Meanwhile, Indiana is over here playing musical chairs with their contracts. This is not the way to win a championship. This is how you alienate your fan base. Now let's address something the front office likely wants to avoid, the CBA issue, because it's not just player contracts creating turmoil. The WNBA's entire financial framework is in flux. If talks continue to drag, free agency will be stalled, which means these 4 released players cannot officially re-sign even if they wish to. So as the Fever await clarity on who might return, the rest of the league is formulating backup plans. And this is where Adam Silver might need to intervene again, as this issue impacts everyone. The Fever cannot complete transactions, the players cannot plan their careers, and the league cannot effectively market the upcoming season. It's disorder masked as standard procedure, and that disorder affects the Fever more than any other team because their entire brand is built on momentum, the Caitlin Clark wave that propelled them through 2024. But momentum vanishes quickly when fans read headlines like 4 Fever players gone and team in limbo before free agency. The longer this continues, the more credibility they forfeit, not only from players but from fans, sponsors, and even the media outlets that finally began to take the WNBA seriously. Let's also confront the larger question. Is the Fever front office truly protecting Caitlin Clark? Because at present, it doesn't appear so. It seems they are betting that Clark will continue to sell out arenas regardless of the team's performance. But anyone who has followed sports knows that such a strategy is not sustainable. Even the most famous stars cannot carry losing teams for years without burning out. If Indiana fails to surround Clark with the right personnel, she will do what every frustrated superstar eventually does: search for an exit. She may not state it publicly, but history proves it happens. We've witnessed it in the NBA, we've witnessed it in college, and now the WNBA might learn that lesson the hard way. The front office must understand that loyalty is not a given. It is earned through commitment, clear direction, and consistency, and fans are noticing the problems. Online commentary is harsh right now. Fans are posting things like, "Here we go again," and "Protect Caitlin at all costs, or you'll lose her." You would think the organization would have learned from the criticism earlier in the year, when Clark faced critiques from around the league and the Fever offered little defense. Instead, they have chosen to remain silent, and that silence speaks volumes more than any official statement. Let's be realistic. The formula for the Fever's success is not complex. It doesn't require advanced analytics or PR strategy. You simply need to maintain your core group, keep Clark healthy, and add intelligent pieces around them. That is all. That is the recipe. Yet, for some reason, Indiana persists in trying to overcomplicate things. They have Boston, a powerful center who can command the paint for the next decade. They have Clark, an exceptional scorer, playmaker, and leader. They have a fan base that is finally engaged, and they are still overthinking their approach. Instead of acquiring shooters or defensive wings, they are releasing the very players who kept them competitive. This is not a game of chess, it's checkers played with a blindfold. And unless there is a swift change, Indiana is in danger of squandering all the progress from last season. So what comes next? Well, free agency is set to begin in early February, provided the CBA doesn't cause another delay. Until that time, Fever fans can only wait and hope the front office has a coherent plan. Because one thing is certain, the Caitlin Clark effect alone cannot sustain this team indefinitely. At some point, the performance must live up to the excitement, and if this offseason is any preview, the Fever need to get serious, or they will shift from a team on the rise to a team that fumbled its opportunity faster than anyone can imagine. So what is your opinion? Did the Fever make a wise decision by releasing these players, or are they creating another disaster before the next season even kicks off? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And if you appreciate straight talk without the sugarcoating, hit that like button, subscribe, and share. We have more WNBA news on the way. Stay